It's time to free yourself from the old way of buying and selling cars. Introducing Beepi, the radical new way to buy and sell cars all online. Carefully inspected, guaranteed, and delivered right to you. If you never have to step foot on a dealership lot again, neither should they. Beepi.com. Zero to happy.
Beepi! A cute name for a cute startup about cars. And yeah, Beepi. Cars they go beep. Their horns. You get it. It's cute. It's cute. Not a bad name actually. Especially for a modern company. Newer generations love the adorable names, very attractive. It's got the I in it, like iPhone, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure some suit said that at some point. Anyway, the point is, it was a company pushing for a new way to buy and sell used cars. They weren't into new cars, they were buying and selling used cars. Now, buying used cars has always been somewhat risky. Contrary to popular belief, there are reputable used car dealers. The car I drive was bought used, but the dealer I bought it from was very reputable with a good reputation, and so far, knock on wood, my car has been excellent. So, no complaint. In fact, the first car I ever bought was also used, and that car lasted me 10 years. I still miss that car. I love that car so much. Anyway, but there's also a lot of horror stories about buying a used car. Someone's talking it up like, oh, it's great, it's wonderful, absolutely perfect condition, totally awesome, only a few, 1,000 miles or so, and then you pull it off the lot, and suddenly the engine just explodes. It's great, it's wonderful. But Beepi's new service was pushed as a disruption service. The heck does that mean? Well, a disruption service is generally referred to any kind of company that has a service that is meant to disrupt the status quo in any kind of marketplace. In this case, of course, it's used cars, and Beepi's idea was, we have an entirely new system for how to buy and sell used cars that's better for both the sellers and the buyers. Therefore, it would disrupt the marketplace. It would be much more attractive than alternate options, and other competitors would have to reorient themselves. And to be fair, Beepi's idea was not their problem. Their idea was actually really good. For one thing, it's the modern age, so this was all handled online, via PC or via app on your smartphone, because of course, but that's par for the course these days. And how it would work is that it would help you find cars you wanted to buy, so matching sellers with buyers, but also it was much more attractive for both sides, because they offered sellers a guaranteed price on whatever car it was, based off of, estimations and evaluations, probably Kelley Blue Book, stuff like that. And if they didn't sell the car in 30 days on their platform, Beepi would buy it themselves and continue the process of trying to sell it on their own. This way, the seller was basically guaranteed to get rid of the thing for a fair price. And on the buyer's side, well, Beepi handled both inspecting the vehicle prior to giving it to you, so they knew that the vehicle was actually as advertised, and they would also deliver it, plus all the paperwork that goes into buying a car. And all in all, that sounds really good, right? And yeah, it was. It was great for the buyer, great for the seller, and great for Beepi because they were attractive and they would get a cut of every sale. That's how they made their money. And at first, it seemed like they were going to take the market by storm. Plenty of investors saw the value in them, so they got a lot of startup capital. They raised $149 million initially on just a $560 valuation of the company. Back when they were very small, they got a ton of capital to begin operations. And at first, things seemed okay. However, alright. If you've been watching me talk about these corporate downfalls, you know that I don't automatically immediately jump on the Twitter train of it's always the suits. They're the problem. No one else. No. I am an equal opportunity shade thrower. Sometimes it's middle management. Sometimes it's even the frontline employees. Sometimes it's a union issue. And sometimes, yes, it is the suits. I will tell you the truth here. But let me be clear. In this instance, it's totally the frickin' suits. They did it. It was them. They ruined everything. They took a great idea and ran it straight into the ground. Spending money on things you absolutely do not need to spend money on. All the suits decided, unanimously, that they deserved some ridiculous salaries, some insane salaries, well beyond what a small startup would normally be able to afford. And by normally be able to afford, I mean they definitely couldn't afford to pay themselves nearly as much as they were. They would also pay significant amounts of overtime to their employees, and that's fine on paper if the employees are, willing to do that. But also, you gotta cut that off at some point because that gets very expensive real quick. But perhaps the biggest problem with Beepi was beyond salaries and leading into other ridiculous expenses. One of the suits, whose name I could not determine, but apparently he decided that not only did he need his own private office, which is one thing, but that office required a sofa that cost $10,000. You spent $10K of company money for a couch? Alright, listen to me very carefully. I am not a wealthy person. I'm not. I'm not. People sometimes think YouTubers make a lot of money, and some YouTubers do, but those are the guys that get like millions of views. I get by, but I'm very much paycheck to paycheck, you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of in that category. But I'd say hypothetically, I was extremely rich. Let's say I wasn't living in a 2-bedroom apartment. Let's say I could afford to pay off all my debts, get myself a nice house, and I was living pretty good. Even in a situation where I had money to blow around. I was a millionaire, I'm still not spending $10K on a couch. I don't know what kind of freaking couch is worth $10K, but unless it was owned by Julius Caesar or something ridiculous, like some historical piece of epic value, I ain't spending $10K on something I sit on. I'm not doing it. And I sure as heck am not spending company money that's meant to be spent on, like, necessary overheads and salaries and stuff like that on a couch. On a $10,000 couch. The fact that $10,000 couches exist is alarming to me. Heck, I'm not sure I would be willing to spend $10K to furnish my entire living room, let alone a single couch. Are you kidding me? And that was just one example of the ludicrous spending going on behind the scenes. The executives responsible for managing Beepi were going through $7 million. $7 million every single month. Need I remind you, once again, this is just a startup. They're not really established yet. The company's still growing. They have to, take their time and make sure everything goes right. Because it's very easy to falter in the early stages of corporate growth. These kind of expenditures are the stuff you'd sneer at for even a larger established company like Microsoft or something. But at least there, they can afford it. Beepi couldn't. Presumably because the suits involved failed their high school math classes. Like, this isn't even hard. It's not like we're getting into stock evaluations and market analysis. This is basic frickin' math. You are spending more than you are earning. That's it. This isn't hard to understand. Your company uses an app. You have smartphones. Smartphones have calculators in them if you can't do the math in your head. Like, come on, people. The tools are right there and you're just ignoring them because, man, this couch costs $10K and I'm gonna buy it because reasons for actions are stupid. But it got even worse, mostly because it seems to be, based on what I'm able to tell, the suits were just kind of high on themselves. They really thought that what they had here was the next greatest thing in the used car market. They were going to be immortalized for decades, they'd be great, wonderful. Beepi would be used by absolutely everybody, and that meant when they went for a re-evaluation of the company, they pushed obnoxiously hard for an insane amount of money. They started operations in 2013. And when they went for another valuation in 2015, they insisted that they were now worth $2 billion. Billion. With a B. Guys. guys. Hear me out on this. Recognize that at their peak, they only had 250 employees. All right, I know this is a mostly online situation, but even with that, you know, you are not worth $2 billion. You aren't. You just aren't, especially not with the way you're throwing money around, and the investors knew it. They were too aggressive when it came to pushing for that higher valuation, and it bit them in the butt because this scared a lot of investors off. Many began to question why they needed so much more money all of a sudden. And plot twist is because they spent most of the stuff they already had. They were spending $7 million a month when they didn't need to. And even from an employee management standard, they were really just awful. The suits were very, very, very much about micromanaging absolutely everything, not allowing the people under them to actually, make up their own minds or do their jobs. No. The suits know everything. The suits know how to run this business, and you're just gonna do what they tell you and absolutely not think for yourself, you friggin' drones. Meanwhile, the employees probably did somewhat know what they were talking about, and certainly would know better to spend $10K on a couch. I'm not over the couch. I'll never get over the stupid couch. And in the end, it finally killed them. Just a year after trying to claim they were worth $2 billion, in 2016, they ceased all operations because they ran out of money. Most of their principal investors pulled out, and they certainly weren't attracting any new ones because by that point, everyone had kind of gotten wise to the fact that they weren't spending the money on the business. They were spending it on lavish, unnecessary nonsense for themselves. Listen, guys, once you take the risk and have a successful business, if you want to spend a stupid amount of money on a couch, that's your prerogative at that point. But you have to make the business work first. And you didn't wait. You didn't take any time. You just started this thing sitting on a gold mine. Could have made way more in the long run, but no! The couch! Absolutely, 100%. And they were in such a poor state when this all happened that they couldn't even find a buyer. They tried to sell off to one of their competitors, Fair.com, but they said no. Then they tried again to negotiate with DGDG, who also said no. And finally, they sold themselves off in components, little pieces of their business, in an attempt to pay off their creditors. And it's a real shame because, again, from a business model perspective, this was really good. You had a great idea. You had a good thing going here. People liked it. The buyers liked it. The sellers liked it. And you stood to make a killing. But you had to wait for the money to actually come in from the business. Instead, you took the investor capital and spent most of it on yourselves, completely mismanaging the insane amount of funding you had, leaving none left over to actually, maintain your operations. You failures. Till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a farewell.